Welcome to this video on AutoSys Azure Data Factory ADF solution. In this video, we will explain Azure Data Factory ADF integration with AutoSys and its benefits for the AutoSys user community. We'll provide technical insights to identify the integration components and understand the deployment sequence. We'll focus on the design and execution sequence of run pipeline jobs. Finally, we'll run through a demo. Azure Data Factory is Azure's cloud ETL service, designed for scalable, serverless data integration and transformation. With Azure Data Factory, you can create scalable workflows to transform data, manage data pipelines, and ensure seamless data integration for large enterprises. You can integrate Azure Data Factory with existing workflow automation solutions. To simplify the integration process, define your data pipelines in Azure Data Factory and schedule, and execute them using your enterprise workload automation solution. AutoSys plays a central role in orchestrating operations across multiple environments, including the cloud, and synchronizing these processes with other non-cloud operations. Integrating Azure Data Factory allows us to centrally configure process automation in AutoSys. Subsequently, we can run, monitor, and supervise all processes from a single interface. These Azure Data Factory processes seamlessly sync with different environments supported by AutoSys, such as applications and databases. This integration allows you to effortlessly execute and monitor Azure Data Factory jobs through AutoSys. By leveraging AutoSys' advanced capabilities, you can accelerate your digital transformation efforts with greater success. Simply define your Azure Data Factory data pipeline jobs and let AutoSys manage the scheduling of these workflows seamlessly. AutoSys lets us build configurations with intuitive interfaces and monitor them through simple dashboard tools specifically designed for operational use. Statuses are clearly indicated, and accessing logs is as simple as clicking a button. From an operations perspective, AutoSys greatly simplifies the configuration and orchestration of Azure Data Factory jobs. Externalizing operations to a tool with a high degree of third-party integration means we can synchronize all cloud with non-cloud workloads. Using various agents and job object types, we can build sophisticated configurations involving multiple applications, database packages, system processes like backups and data consolidation, file transfers, web services, and other on-premise workloads. The job submission sequence is relatively simple because all job definition properties are stored in the AutoSys plain old Java, or POJO job. All target system properties, including the endpoint, client ID, client secret, and other parameters, are specified in the J2EE parameters. These parameters may vary depending on the authentication method used. Let's look at the sequence of execution. We start with the three main components: the AutoSys scheduler, the system agent, and the Azure Data Factory server. The AutoSys scheduler submits the POJO job to the system agent. The system agent acknowledges the job from the scheduler and initiates communication with the Azure Data Factory server. The system agent then initiates authentication based on the specifications defined in the J2EE authentication properties. In this video, we use OAuth 2 authentication with proxy, which uses a combination of a client ID and a client secret. AutoSys allows connections via proxy, providing additional flexibility and security when accessing Azure Data Factory resources. Once authenticated, the agent submits the job to the Azure Data Factory server as a POST request. The Azure Data Factory server identifies and executes the matching job. The job execution returns a JSON response that contains the execution details. The Azure Data Factory server and system agent monitor the job until it reaches its final state. Once the final state is obtained from Azure Data Factory, the job status in AutoSys is updated accordingly as either canceled, succeeded, or failed. Let's look at how to deploy the integration. First, ensure the Application Services plugin is installed as a prerequisite. The Application Services plugin and Pojo extension have the CFG extension. In older agent versions, you might encounter a PAK file instead. Next, download the plugin extension package from the marketplace. This package contains all the necessary elements. Unzip the package and extract the content into a temporary folder. Navigate to System Agent Install Directory. Next, we must stop the system agent with the cyb agent-s command. Install the plugin extension with the command plugin installer path to CFG file. Now, restart the system agent with the cyb agent-a command. Remember, this integration uses Azure Data Factory Public REST API. We will run an Azure Data Factory Pojo job in AutoSys. First, let's establish communication with the Azure Data Factory server. After communication is established, we can execute and supervise the job. Let's dive into the world of applications and job execution within the Azure Data Factory environment. Let's start with the demo. The Azure Data Factory console offers a variety of features accessible through the left navigation pane. From the navigation pane, select Author to view factory resources, including pipelines, change data capture, datasets, data flows, and Power Query. Navigate to the Pipelines section to see a list of pre-existing pipelines. Click a specific pipeline and you can view the stages. Lookup stage retrieves a single row or a list of rows from a data source. Wait stage introduces a delay or pause in the pipeline's execution for a specified duration. Copy data stage moves or transforms data from the source to the destination. Next, let's proceed to log in to AutoSys. Click the Quick View tab to view the job definition. Select the Run Pipeline job to open the job definition. The job employs OAuth 2 authentication using a proxy for the demo. When the job is open, click the Quick Edit button to view the required parameter. The first step in executing a job is to select the machine on which the job is to be executed. The first parameter is the class name Azure Data Factory, and the second is the method name, the Run Pipeline job. Now let's look at the gateway parameters. Understanding these gateway parameters is an essential part of the process. The endpoint parameter indicates where the Azure Data Factory service resides. The auth endpoint parameter specifies the URL where OAuth authentication takes place. This URL ensures secure access to Azure Data Factory resources by verifying user identities. Moving on to the client ID, it serves as a unique identifier used to generate a token for OAuth authentication. On the other hand, the client secret is a confidential secret used to generate a token for OAuth authentication. The resource parameter specifies the attributes or identifiers required to access and manage resources within Azure. The subscription ID parameter is a unique identifier that associates your Azure Data Factory with the correct Azure subscription. The resource group parameter is a container in Azure that organizes and manages related resources for your data factory. The factory parameter refers to the Azure Data Factory instance, which includes pipelines, datasets, linked services, and other configurations for data integration workflow. The pipeline name parameter identifies the pipeline to be executed within the specified namespace. The pipeline parameters define the configurations required to run the data factory pipeline, formatted as a JSON object. Then we have proxy parameters. The proxy hostname specifies the hostname or IP address of the proxy server to which the connection is established. The proxy port indicates the port number the proxy server uses for communication. The proxy username is required for authentication with the proxy server. The proxy password is the password associated with the username. The max retry parameter is crucial as it determines the maximum number of attempts the job status will be fetched from the Azure Data Factory server for monitoring purposes. The sleep interval parameter specifies the duration of time the system agent should wait before querying the Azure Data Factory API again to obtain the job status. In the event of a brief downtime experienced by the Azure Data Factory service, the failure interval parameter comes into play. This parameter specifies the amount of time in seconds before the job fails due to API failure. The log level parameter specifies the level of logging information that should be included in the log file. Lastly, the pipeline run ID parameter identifies a failed pipeline run, allowing you to restart from the failed activity. To disable this feature, use an empty string. Once you have specified all the J2EE and other parameters, click Commit and close it. That completes the job definition. Let's now start the job. Once all the parameters are defined, select Start the job and click Go. To confirm the job's execution, click Yes when prompted. The current run number for the job is 8296. Upon refreshing, a new execution is triggered, increasing the run number from 8296 to 8309. A status of success indicates that the last execution was completed successfully. To access the spool files, simply scroll down on the user interface until you locate the spool files section. From there, select the desired file and click on the Go button. You will then be prompted to specify the number of lines you wish to display. Reports for all statuses are accessible for further investigation or utilization. As we examine the successful job, we can see that all parameters passed by the user, such as job details, run ID, and authentication parameters, are displayed. Make a note of the run ID ending with 6553F. We will use this run ID for verification in the Azure Data Factory instance. Now, let's look at the job status in the Azure Data Factory instance. As you can see, this was the job we triggered, and it is completed. That wraps up the demo on how AutoSys can integrate with Azure Data Factory to execute and monitor jobs. Thank you for watching this video.